Application.
Excellent. We're in business, recording in progress. So, welcome everyone to my webinar, Lead with Heart and Edge. And we were just talking a little bit behind the scenes with the few of you that are online today about some of our experiences. But today, I'm going to share some of what I've experienced, some of what my clients have experienced. But I feel like I only have time to scratch the surface. So if you want to explore your own personal situation, which may be the other end of it as well, right? Maybe you're leading with too much edge and not enough heart. We can also explore that as well. And finding that balance is what's key. And that's what we're going to be talking about. But if you want to explore your personal situation with me, I'm going to share how to do that at the end of the presentation. But no matter what, I want you guys to promise me that as I go through this, you're going to take a couple of action items for yourself that you're going to implement within the next few weeks, right? And maybe you are not necessarily working now, so it's a little bit harder to implement, but I still want you to take note because then it may help you once you go back to working and working in leadership. It's going to potentially be a reminder, and maybe your action would be to make sure you go back to your notes. But how many times have you gone to a training or a presentation where you're like, oh, yes, that would be so great to do. And then you forget, and then it doesn't happen because there's always so much going on. So I don't want that to happen to you. And again, the idea for this webinar was when I was talking to one of my clients, and she said these exact words: "You're too kind to lead. You're too nice to lead." Different versions of that same message. And I kind of smiled to myself, right? And thought, oh, have I been told that a few times? And a lot of us have, right? It's something very common because we as women, a lot of times tend to lead with our heart, or at least at the beginning of our careers, we tend to lead with our heart. But what that leader was really saying was potentially, you're just not leading the way I would, or you're just not leading the way I expect you to lead. And there's a few reasons for that. Potentially, it could be because they just like a leader that's harsh, abrasive, and just barks orders. Maybe that's what they're comfortable with because maybe that's how they are. And that's really a perception. It may be a perception, right? Because maybe you are doing all the right things. And that's not necessarily what we're going to address today, but we can definitely explore it together. Or maybe because that may be just a perception. Or on the other hand, maybe there is some truth to that. You are kind and you are gentle with your team, but that's something that's deep within you and something you want to do. So we're going to explore during the time we have together on how to bring the edge so it's not all hard, because that's what leads to better management and leadership of the teams. So as I said, who I am, I think most of you know, lots of years of industry experience, and over 22 of them in leadership, leading teams and leading groups and leading a department. And at various times in my career, I was told that, because if anyone has worked with me, you know I like leading with my heart. And I'll share my story in a little bit, but now what I do is I really love helping other women that are in leadership positions and that want to lead with heart, right? That's one of the things I do. And that's what we're going to be hopefully helping you with today. I'll base it on my experience and also my client's experience. Hey, Risa, so happy you made it. Risa used to be my workout partner, so I was super excited when she signed up for this. So how many of you have you been told this? I know a couple of you just shared that story, right? You're too nice and or too soft to lead. And this is something that comes up once and again. And sometimes really what's happening is that you have that kindness, but that kindness goes a little too far, and you're not necessarily putting also that accountability. You're not stressing the importance of deadlines. You know the team is super stretched thin. They're working super hard on this um, deliverable, and you're struggling to find ways to rein in the team to make sure that things get done on time, potentially because you feel you don't want to derail them. You don't want them to feel attacked or whatever. So when they tell you you're too kind to lead, it only becomes a problem when you are in that situation where you're missing the accountability piece of of this all, right? And so we're leading with too much heart and not enough edge, and we convince ourselves that it's for a good reason, right? We tell ourselves, yes, but if I tell them what they're doing wrong, they're just going to stop working towards it, or they're already demoralized enough, I can't put more on their shoulders. But we're going to explore today how that is actually not being so kind to your team. So my story is when I was in project management a while ago, I was told I was too kind to lead. I took it really, I took it not in the best of ways, I have to admit, because it kind of hurt. I did not want to be a harsh leader. I wanted to lead a team that actually enjoyed working with me. I wanted to lead a team that felt safe working with me. I wanted to lead a team that wouldn't be afraid to come and tell me, this is going wrong, let's solve it together. But early in my project management days, I didn't know how to bring that edge, right? So I was actually being too kind to lead. And working with different leaders, then I learned, or I tried to mimic what they did. I tried to be a little bit stronger and harsher and be more assertive, if you will. But I just couldn't. It just came out the wrong way. It came out forced. It came out in a way that wasn't. And you guys are seeing my presentation, right? Am I sharing?
Not seeing it.
New presentation. Okay. There we go.
Alrighty.
Now you see it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wasn't that important at the end of the day. It's what I'm saying more. Hopefully, you were all just paying attention to my words because there was no presentation. So again, in my situation, I tried to be harsher. I tried to be stronger. I tried to just tell the team what to do, and this is what you need to do. And it didn't go well, needless to say, right? And on top of that, I felt horrible. I didn't want to be like that, right? So it took me a little bit to understand. And also, just what I did was I tried to find other leaders that I felt more in tuned with, not necessarily my boss, who I did not want to, I didn't like working with her because she was that kind of abrasive leader, but other leaders. So I started looking to be able to look at their behaviors, what they did, why did people like working with them, and I realized that it was because they were kind, they were nice, they were gentle with the team, but they provided the feedback. They held their teams accountable, and their teams wanted to work with them, and they wanted to do a good job, and they wanted to meet the timelines. And I said, that's what I need to learn to do, because that's who I want to be. I want to be a leader that people want to work with. But I also want them to grow. I want them to want to do their best. And so that really was a turning point for me in my leadership, right? After I understood that, then I was able to really embody that and lead my teams a lot more effectively. So when we're looking at the different kind of roles, right? And on the left, you have the fixed mindset leadership. On the right, you have the growth mindset leadership. And by the way, if you want to learn more about growth mindset and fixed mindset, the book by Carol Dweck is fantastic. It's called Mindset. It's not too long, and it goes through how to utilize and just having a growth mindset in a teaching environment with your kids. And there's a chapter on leadership, which I absolutely loved and helped me frame a lot of this as well for you guys today. But a fixed mindset leader leads with fear, avoids feedback, right? Because they just want you to do what you need to do and do it the right way, but they're not going to tell you how. They're not going to tell you why you did it wrong. They're just going to slap you with, that was the wrong thing to do. And oh my God, then you see your bonus disappearing, your end of your review going badly. And really, when you start looking at those leaders, it's a lot of me. They're concerned about their image and how it reflects on them that you're not doing a good job and that your team is not doing a good job, but they're not that concerned with helping you grow and understand how to do it better. Now, a growth mindset leader is a leader that is someone that wants the team to grow. The only way you can get better at what you do is understanding what you did wrong or what you could do better. And someone telling you, sometimes you have these blind spots, right? You think you're doing the best thing. You think you're doing the right thing. Your team thinks they're doing the right thing. But if nobody's telling them we should be doing it this way, sometimes you're so much into it, you can't see the forest. And so a growth mindset leader leads with trust. The team feels they can trust you to come to you and say, I don't know how to do this. Please help me. Or this is not going well. I'm sure I did something wrong. Can you help me fix it? Or this is something that we need to learn how to do better for next time. So we need the timelines. Or I think next time we can beat the timelines. I have an idea on how to do it better. Do you think that if you have a fixed mindset leader, anybody would say that? No, because the fixed mindset leader will say, maybe, sure, we'll try it. And when it goes wrong, all the blame is on you. But a growth mindset leader says, absolutely, let's explore it together, right? It's a collaboration. And that's really the leader that I learned how to be at that time. And then I pulled with me to the point where after I left my company in January when I got laid off, someone reached out to me and she said, and I have that in the sign up page if you saw it, she said, I actually wanted you to be my mentor because you showed me that you can be a strong leader and still be nice. That made my day. I have to say, right? Because I had been working so hard at that. And that's really only after I learned how to keep my teams accountable. Otherwise, I would not have made it to where I made it, right? I would have never been able to continue growing as a leader if I was just kind and not holding anyone accountable. So just kind of framing it a different way, a fixed mindset leader is all about proving that they're the best, proving their team is the best, proving that they have to always be the center of attention. But a growth mindset leader is all about improving, growing, right? And the only way you can grow is by looking into the nitty gritty of what went wrong, what do we need to improve, how do we learn to do things better, and what do we need to do more of, etc. And that really comes with that trust when you have that open mind and your team trust and they feel safe with you. So this is the model that I preach, if you will, right? The leadership that has heart and it also has edge. Because as I just explained in a few of the slides, to make it super clear, heart only is not going to take you anywhere. And unfortunately, it's going to lead to a stagnant team. Heart gives you the empathy, the compassion, the understanding, the emotional intelligence, the physical, the psychological safety. But it turns into leniency if you don't put some edge in it. And the edge comes with clarity, with setting up boundaries, with keeping your team accountable, putting those high standards, right? And most importantly, having those courageous conversations. And really the key is to lead with both heart and edge. Not easy. It's a balance, right? And the hidden trap, as we've been talking about here, is when you lead with too much heart, it becomes avoidance. And I love the quote here, or the wording here, right? True kindness is caring enough about the individual to help them grow, even when it makes you uncomfortable to have that conversation, right? It's putting your employee, the person that you want to help grow, overcoming your own difficulties to be able to tell them how to grow, how to do things better. False kindness, it's again putting your own comfort ahead of the team's growth, because you don't want to have that hard conversation, right? That it just feels uncomfortable. So the honest question now is, when you think about it, is, are you making excuses for yourself for why you're potentially being too kind and not setting boundaries, not keeping your team accountable? I mean, I can think of plenty of examples where the team is working super hard towards a deliverable. The client, I mean, especially in the industry that a lot of us work in, the pharmaceutical industry, the clients are putting a ton of pressure. You have this deliverable, that deliverable. The VPs are asking what's going on. The head of the department, everybody has like a microscope on your team. You don't want to put more pressure on them. You don't want to upset the apple cart anymore, and you potentially withhold feedback. And that just doesn't let the team grow. So the key is really, as I mentioned, finding ways to give that feedback nonetheless, but make it in a way that becomes growth, that allows the team to grow. So this is where we're going to get into a little bit more of tangible examples. And I kind of want to get through this, and then we can have a quick conversation to see how else you guys have found ways to do this. But a fixed mindset would really upset that apple cart, and will come with, you guys are doing it all wrong. What do you mean you're not going to meet the deadline? What is it that, why did this go wrong? Why are we not meeting client expectations? And your work is not good enough. Now, a growth mindset leader will come in with, I realize I need to help you guys. It looks like we may not meet the deadline. Let's look at what's happening. How can we work together to make it better, right? Here's how you can make your work better or stronger, or just more aligned with the objective that we have today. And that's the biggest difference, right? You want to give the feedback, but in a way that's constructive and in a way that they feel you have their best interest at heart. So you can't just become that great leader from one day to another, because the team's going to be like, what's up with her? I mean, she's always like, blah, blah, blah. And now she comes and asks, what do I need? There's something going on there, right? They're all skeptical. So you have to work on gaining their trust. But once you do, it's just beautiful. I don't want to harp on this again. Deadline slips, accountability drops, respect fades. I think I made my point well enough, right? But what happens when you're not leading with that heart as well? The high performers are very resentful, right? Because they're not getting the feedback to be able to grow. The underperformers, they're all happy, like in that little picture, right? That AI created for me. They're happy, meaning like happy go lucky because it's all good. I perform horribly. Nobody tells me anything. My leader is super nice. We have a party at the office today. I knew at 2 a.m, which I've had some directors come to me like this. Oh my God, what's going on? Super stressed out. You're just picking up all the gaps. You're trying to fix all the issues. And then you go to your team and you're the super nice leader, but you're not necessarily helping. So once you become that growth mindset leader where you're giving feedback in a way that's constructive, people feel supported. So feedback that you may think could derail the team's performance, the team actually feels supported because they may be struggling and not know that there's a different way of doing it. And when you come in and tell them, they feel supported. They feel you have their best interest at heart, right? It's your feedback is driving growth. They're able to take that initiative to, even if it's against a deadline or even if it's high stakes, they're able to come up with initiatives and potentially with suggestions that will make the project go better, faster, better budget, whatever it is. And again, I can't stress enough how critical it is to earn their trust and the influence. So, how do we do that? And that's the question, right? I believe in your potential as something that you can always start with. I know you can do it. I know you can do it better or different, and then having that conversation. One that I also had a little bit of a struggle when I was leading was when I was requesting feedback, right? We've all been there, mid-year review, end of year review, and you request feedback from peers or other leaders working with your employee, and somebody comes up with something that's really negative feedback about the person. And you're like, what? You're just really scratching your head and be like, what is going on here? I've never seen that behavior. I had an experience with one of my directors. Somebody came and said that she was super harsh in the way that she was treating the team, that she conveyed the information in a very sharp tone that made the team feel like they didn't matter, all the hours they were working. And I was floored because this person is always very careful about how she communicates. And so I had two options, right? I know this person, I know that's not them. So what do? Do I discard the feedback? Or do I say it to my direct report nonetheless, even though I can't believe it's true? So this is what I did in those cases. I actually told my direct report and I said, look, I received some feedback that it's very surprising to me because I've never seen this from you. And it may be reality or it may be perception. But either way, I want us to talk about it because when you're in leadership, perception is so critical, right? Even if it's not reality. And so if it's perception, maybe what we need to do is change something so you're not perceived that way anymore, right? So and this person received that feedback in a great way, saying, absolutely, let's look into it. I don't want anyone to think that about me. But how do you think it would have gone if I told her, you're being too harsh in meetings? It would be like, what? I'm the nicest person. And that's what I've had experienced with her. Or if I had to be like, oh, this is not worth it. This person's just disgruntled. Let's forget about it. I wouldn't have helped her either. So in the end, she went and had a conversation with this person. This person had just had a bad day. They just came to this meeting and they were going through really, again, tight timelines, what needed to happen. And my direct report had been just very matter of fact, and everybody else understood it. But this person coming with a but maybe frame of mind to the meeting had taken it a little too harsh. But they had a great conversation, and then they were able to work together. And the person came back giving me feedback that she had seen a huge improvement on how she was being treated in the team. Win-win, right? That's what a growth mindset leader needs to be. I helped my direct report grow. She took it in a way where she knew I had her best interest at heart, and she was able to implement, because we talked about what could she do in the situation. Another one that I love is, what do you think led to this? And my favorite of all time, what support do you need from me? Right? So I'd love for you guys, if you feel comfortable, to kind of get yourself off mute and or share in the chat if you want, but we're just a few of us. So get yourself self mute if you want, and share maybe times where you've been told feedback in a way that helped you grow, or that you've been able to put the feedback in those words for someone that was able to grow, and maybe share some examples with the team if you feel comfortable. I'll give you a couple seconds to think if you want to come off mute. It's a tough one. I think I caught everyone by surprise. Anyways, think about it. Maybe you'll share later when we get to the Q&A. Yes, because I love learning from you guys as well. I'm sure you have great examples to share too. So if this is resonating with you, and you're at a point where you're thinking, you know what, I am leading with too much heart, or I am leading with a little too much edge. How do I come to a happy medium? And as I said, it's just a balance, right? So I can definitely help you get there. We can, through coaching, I can help you really look into examples, looking at your particular situation, where first we go through that awareness of understanding what feedback maybe you're receiving from a receiving end, or what kind of feedback you don't feel comfortable giving. Work through the examples, try to understand where you're coming from. One of my clients said that she always has a really hard time giving feedback because at a very crucial point in her career, she received feedback in a way that really made her rethink what she wanted to do and almost quit altogether. And so she overcame that. She learned how to actually work with that feedback. But now she's having a really hard time figuring out how to give feedback, because it just almost doesn't even sound like feedback sometimes when she does it, because she tries to sugarcoat it so much, and the person, it's not helping anyone either. So again, just being aware of what's going on, and then putting an action plan together, and then looking at the results. We can definitely do that together through coaching. So we can talk about how to get that in the books at the end. Just keep it in mind. So a reflective exercise, right? Are you leading with too much heart, where you may be avoiding some of those difficult conversations? Are you leading with too much edge, where you're being too harsh, too abrasive with the team? And where do you, how can you bring that heart in? And maybe the heart is there. And what I've seen also with a lot of leaders that lead with too much edge is that it's rooted in them not feeling comfortable giving the feedback, but they know they have to. And they just do it in a very difficult way, not because they don't want to help the employee, but because they haven't figured out how to. And so that's something that we can work on as well. And this is kind of like what I was talking about earlier, where take some notes. And if you're somebody that likes journaling, you can take notes either by hand or on your phone or on the computer, and just remind yourself to come back to it later and think about where you could improve that, right? Because sometimes very small shifts can lead to a big change in how your team is behaving. This is a little bit of a recap where we really want to go from a team that fears you to a team that trusts you, right? I wanted to be that leader where my team trusted me. I hated the little exercise and experiment I did where the team just feared me. It was not me. It was not aligned with my values, and I just did not want to be there. So I had to find my way to get into that trust. And then it's going from avoidance and avoiding having to give that feedback because it makes us uncomfortable to finding a way that's given in a growth way and in a way that's going to be constructive and helping. Going from control to collaboration, those fixed mindset leaders, they want to control everything. It's easier when you control everything than when you collaborate and trust that the team will get it done. So we need to, again, get uncomfortable in trusting the team because more times than not, they will be successful. And then from improving to growing and improving, it's definitely what we want to do. So again, we can redefine leadership together. If you want to, if this is resonating and you want to book some time with me, my calendar is always open. You can just click that little button that was before. I think I didn't put it in the slide, but you can click there or just DM me or text me, whatever. And we can set up a quick call to go through your own particular experience and see if I'm a good fit to help you through that. Because I really truly believe the future of leadership belongs to those who lead with both heart and edge. And if you get that mindset book, the chapter on leadership, Carol Dweck really goes through a lot of examples of Ford, Hewlett Packard, and other companies that don't come to mind right now because my premenopause gives me blank pages instead of an idea sometimes. But she goes through how some of the leaders, that the leader for Ford at the time almost brought Ford to the ground because he was one of these very fixed mindset leaders that everything needed to be done his ways. He controlled everything. He had his inner circle that was allowed into his world. And he was all about being a shiny object. Oh, thank you, Blessing. She put in there the link to schedule a call in the chat. But he was all about just showing how wonderful he was. And Ford almost collapsed with his leadership. And then I think it was Hewlett Packard, the example that she gave, where it was almost at the brink of a collapse, and how an open-minded leader came in, sleeves up, talked to everyone, collaborated with everyone, brought up ideas that nobody in leadership had thought about because he was talking to the people that were actually working in the factories and were working on designs and were working on this, and had such an open mindset that everyone felt comfortable, even the lowest person in the company coming to tell him about an idea to make any process more efficient or something that could be the future of whatever they were working on. And I love those examples. It was just validating what I've always wanted to achieve, which was that leading with heart and edge. Wonderful book again. If you need it, let me know and I'll give you more details. But so these were my thoughts on leading with heart and edge. I don't know if you guys have thought of any examples or any experiences you wanted to share, maybe how a fixed mindset leader made you feel and how things changed with the growth one. I don't know. Go ahead, Kate. I see you came off mute.
Yeah, I mean, all of this really resonates with me. And through my career, I've dealt with a bunch of this, and I have a visual understanding. I tend to see things. And so for me, the idea of the combination of heart and edge, it's standing next to somebody instead of facing them. So
Mhm.
what that ends up being is um, understanding their perspective, where they're coming from, in order to see the challenges that they will be seeing. And
Mm-hmm.
it's only through not seeing that that you are cross purposes. So I don't use the word feedback, because to me that's like I lob something over, you lob something. So I want to instead turn, so we're shoulder to shoulder, and I understand what's going on, and then you can understand how we need to shift and do things a little bit differently because X, Y, and Z. So having
Mm-hmm.
that shoulder to shoulder part first kind of gets you thinking in the same vocabulary, and that shows the heart. And so
Mm-hmm.
then when you have that adjustment or coaching, it's easier to handle. And I work with a lot of men, and so they do sports analogies, which was great. I used to do sports when I was in college, but the idea of having a coach, right? Even the best of the best has a
Mm-hmm.
coach. So to have that be, instead of the manager or the leader, I'm here to coach you to be the best that
Mm-hmm.
you can. The only way to do that is if you share with me the struggles that you're having. We can work with it on those together. So the idea of coaching resonated with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I love that analogy in standing with them and not in front of them, right? I'm with you. Let's push together. And then you brought the sports, and then I'm seeing a lot of guys like it just practicing football and going boom, right? I would die trying. I'm a little too skinny for that, but I punch a little power anyway. But I love
Yeah,
that
but
analogy, right?
that idea of, yeah, even if working with people that I don't know what they do, like that's not my specialty. And I get that. But they can still follow me because I know enough about what's motivating them, what struggles they're having, and then I respect what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So with a football player, I'm not going to get into tackling, but I can show you that you're stepping off on the wrong foot,
Yeah. No, I meant
or
tackling the problem together. That
yeah,
was
that
my
too.
analogy.
Exactly. Exactly. So, uh what minor shifts, and so that's where uh being able to communicate, and you talked a lot about trust, having your people trust you to tell you when something they're struggling with something, right? And what
Mm-hmm.
that means is that you don't sit on them or push them or whatever. You're
Yeah.
like, yeah, that sounds really hard, versus I can't believe that's happening.
Oh,
So
I know. I've
yeah,
had that
and
experience
I've been on
before.
that. Yeah, exactly. I've been on that side too.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I love that, as I said, the analogy and the stories. And I love that you came off mute and shared your experience. So thank you. Anyone else wants to share? Do you guys have any questions? I mean, this is the Q&A part where we get to talk about and answer any questions you may have, if you have any.
Hi. I wanted to, like, one of the biggest things is leading in these times. All right. These are different times, and I find that my team is more anxious, on edge.
Mm-hmm.
They're nervous, and it's just mind-boggling that I think that it maybe it has to do with a little bit of generation as well, because
Mm-hmm.
I come from a different era, and throughout your career things happen, right? And you pick up the pieces and you move forward, and you continue your journey. However,
Yes.
with the newer generation, and I know it has been a topic that has been tossed around so many times, and we don't want to even categorize anyone or anything like that, but it it's a little bit more challenging just because they're hyper nervous, they're hyper anxious, there's they're not able to pick up the pieces and continue their journey. So
Mhm.
it's like one of my biggest thing, and where compassion comes in, and being a little bit more empathetic to the the world we're living in,
Yeah.
and their just how they're and just their day to day, right? Being empathetic. But however, there still has to be some type of boundaries and some type of, because I know the world is a struggle. However, I still need you to perform.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
So I think that's where I kind of there's I am on the fence, like I'm in the middle, because I know I need to lead with heart and be compassionate with what we're going through and what everyone is going through. Life be life in many days, but it's also I still need results. I still need you to deliver.
Exactly.
So I think that's my biggest I it's a question like, oh, how do I do this piece?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And it's, I think the way that I see it is you taking that responsibility of taking the burden of it's crazy what's going on and still finding a way to make it work, right? Finding a way to make your team grow and finding a way. So, and I always say the same thing, it's harder to lead with heart than it is to be harsh and just bark orders, because then you're taking the time to really care for your team. But at the end of the day, then you get wonderful results and your team will follow wherever you go. Absolutely. Perfect. Great. I love it. Any other thoughts, guys, before we close for today? We're good. Okay. Well, I know it's Friday and Thanksgiving next week, and I wish everyone, if you're in the US, I wish everyone a wonderful Thanksgiving next week, taking time to recharge. Hopefully, spend time with family if that's what you like, because sometimes we don't.
In 2 weeks,
But yeah, oh, 2 weeks. Why did I think it was next week? You
because
know
it's
what?
usually the third
Yeah. Well,
Thursday, and
and I'm
that is the
anxious
fourth.
for my daughter to come visit. She's in college and she's coming for Thanksgiving. So I'm anxious to have her here. I'm not going to have to wait another week. Anyway, everyone have a wonderful weekend. Anyways, enjoy, recharge. If you have any questions, any follow ups, let me know. We can always get on the phone. And thank you so much for coming to my webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Vanessa.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.